What's up, and welcome back to Nowstalgia Pod, your weekly look at what's going on in pop culture. My name is Patrick Sheehan. I am here with my co-host, the David Martinson. Dave, how you doing, man?
Doing all right, sir. It's another wonderful cold day on the Northeast.
Yeah,
How about you?
it's seriously winter outside now. But you know what? We had some nice news come out after we recorded last week. Of course,
Right after.
Classic culture drop timing.
Right.
But
Day later.
I had a nice Taylor Swift album, or maybe a not so nice Taylor Swift album to keep me warm as well, and finished up Stranger Things. So we got a lot to talk about. Before we get going, please subscribe, rate, review, give us an iTunes review, even if it's not necessarily a positive one. We want any feedback we can to make this better for you. So help us out.
Yes.
Soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod. Stay plugging. Why don't we start off with Star Wars, though? So we've been talking about Star Wars quite a bit throughout the year. It's one of the more reliable IPs for just getting news out and getting people excited. And of course, episode 8 is a month away from Friday?
Yeah, month away from Wednesday. It's the 15th.
Wednesday.
12/15.
So it's getting up there, and there's a lot of excitement, even more excitement and more speculation about how good this particular chapter of the Skywalker trilogy, or now like what is it, 9 trilogy
Saga.
However you say saga is going to be, because Rian Johnson was announced as going to be getting his own Star Wars trilogy. Right. And not only getting his own Star Wars trilogy, but it's going to be a story separate from the Skywalkers, which is quite interesting. So Dave, initial thoughts around this, and maybe give me some ideas of what we could be looking at in terms of these movies.
Yeah, it's really exciting just on like a surface level, because when you hear no Skywalkers, you start drifting to like, are we talking thousands of years in the past? Are we talking way in the future? Like, what are we talking about here? And that was kind of the initial appeal of the anthology films when they were announced, is that they would be, separate standalone stories. Of course, now that we know they were more embellishing, enriching movies to the saga, obviously with Rogue One and Han Solo thus far. So the thought of a trilogy that's totally separate is really exciting, because, the galaxy far, far away, it's kind of felt a little small because we keep following around the same family and all the crazy stuff that goes on. And of course, we know the Star Wars galaxy is so much bigger. There's so much there, so much EU legend source material to pull from, that, there's no doubt about the, stories you could tell, that I wouldn't be worried about anything. But yeah, it's very exciting. So what was your take? Because some people are like, is this too much Star Wars? Are we hitting Star Wars saturation? My response to that is, let's let them make a bad one first,
Yeah, I agree with that. And I mean, from talks, Han Solo might be that movie. But, I think I look at it very much as like Marvel. I feel like they're kind of taking a chapter from them, and they're trying to keep something that's like a through line, which has been, episodes 1 through 8 as of next month. And this is going to be something a little bit different. It's going to be kind of like, I don't know, Black Panther, almost in a way. Like, I'm sure that if Black Panther is as good as the trailers lead it to look, that will get more movies. But that's not a character that's a mainstream Marvel character, at least not within the movie universe yet. So this is just another opportunity for them to use some creativeness. He's a very driven and creative and upcoming director to build another piece of this world that I think people will really latch on to. And I agree, if he totally flails and this is a flop, yeah, scrap it. That's fine. But I don't see that happening. I think Rian Johnson's going to nail this. I know you said you were thinking it's like way in the future, or maybe way in the past, or maybe something that we haven't even thought of yet, or hasn't been even talked about yet. What would you put your money on for right now?
I mean, a lot of fans are clamoring for the Old Republic, Knights of the Old Republic, beloved video game from 2003, which is set thousands of years before any of the Star Wars movies. Jedi, Sith, lots of conflict going on. It's familiar, but much different, very grand. That's really exciting. And there's those books. There's lots been expounded upon in that era. It's a great comic line. But as much as I'd like to see it as a fan, I kind of question if that's too prequely in terms of what's going on, just because there's a Jedi Council in that story. There's tons of Jedi. There's tons of conflict. So I'm not that being prequel is bad, but it have that kind of vibe in terms of the visuals, what you're seeing. So I don't know if Rian Johnson's going to immediately make something so grand and just throw you back that far. But if they wanted to go in the past like that, I think that could be cool. Whether they really want to go like the origin of the Jedi or something really monumental. I think you have to have Jedi and the Force in there in some capacity. But yeah, I don't think a direct adaptation of the Old Republic. Revan obviously is the breakout character from that story, and everyone loves him. But I think we should just leave that alone. And if you want to go back in time that far, but I think they should just go something totally fresh, because it's Johnson and Ram Bergman, his longtime collaborator. They'll be working together, writing all this, directing all this as of right now. So let them just figure it out, because Johnson's been a huge fan. He loved his time on the set of The Last Jedi. As we said before, there's no negative press. So let him concoct something original, because that's seemingly what this would be. And great sign for Disney that they found a director they like, and it was like, hey, do this. We don't have any guidelines for this kind of new trilogy, because again, we don't have a Skywalker or Han Solo legacy to protect.
Right. Yeah, I almost wonder if doing something where they bring in a little bit of both worlds, like exploring a part of the galaxy that is kind of unknown or hasn't even been talked about yet, but bringing that in as like maybe a Jedi who's part of like this Sith versus Jedi war in some way. Maybe he's like an up and coming Jedi, like something like along those lines could be pretty interesting, just to be like almost like fan servicey in a way as well, which I think, especially going off the beaten path, they're going to need something that fans are going to be able to get behind. I don't think it'll be hard, because Star Wars fans are usually fanatics, like literally fanatics about this sort of thing. Do you think that this means that Episode 8 is going to be like the fucking best Star Wars movie ever made?
I think it means close to that. Yes, I think Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, they love what Episode 8 obviously is, and they want more of that touch. I don't see how you could think anything else.
No, yeah, I'm really excited for this movie now. Can't wait for Episode 8. Something that I think.
Well, actually, Pat, there was more to that. Disney, they're having a live action Star Wars TV series that'll debut on the Disney streaming service we've mentioned before. That'll be debuted at the end of 2019. Finally, a live action Star Wars show. People have talked about wanting one forever. George Lucas had reportedly over 100 episode scripts done, in the early aughts. The fact that they're finally doing that's really crazy. And there's some other Disney related news that came out that they're going to work on a High School Musical and Monsters Inc. shows for the service, as well as something for Marvel.
Interesting.
And then Bob Iger said that it'll be priced below Netflix's $10.99 a month, because it's going to have less content overall, and they want the price to reflect that. And then they also said they plan to release 4 to 5 original movies for the service.
Damn.
So, while obviously much lower than Netflix, which is producing over 100 films for next year, we're finally getting some information about what the Disney streaming service is going to be. And under $10, by the time the Star Wars show is there, you're going to get a lot of subscribers. So,
definitely.
A cool announcement all around. A lot to be excited about.
Yeah, it's interesting as you think about like how Disney's making such a play for so much IP in the last couple of weeks. I wonder if they're like gearing up to basically be like, either get this channel and get all of our content, or you can't have access to any of it. Like, it'd be really interesting to see how that plays into their. I mean, that's obviously many years down the line for a move like that, but like that's like the end game for them to be like, this is an exclusive thing unless you're paying us.
Yeah, the question that's pretty unclear. You can look up reports trying to tell you otherwise, but it's really uncertain. Is what happens to the Marvel Netflix shows? Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Punisher comes out this Friday. That whole line of them. What happens to them, because they're on Netflix, but they're made by Marvel Television? Does Netflix just distribute them, or does Netflix actually own a stake of them?
Yeah, that'd
Obviously,
be interesting.
once those shows end their run, would they actually move off Netflix to the Disney streaming service, or they remain on Netflix, in perpetuity, like every most other things on Netflix? So that's something that we don't know about, but be interesting to see, because obviously Disney will be pulling all their movies off of Netflix, but will that last Marvel stuff remain? Obviously we'll find out in a few years.
Definitely. Why don't we pivot to Stranger Things? So something that's on Netflix, something that will not be leaving Netflix when Disney
Right.
leaves Netflix. Stranger Things 2. We did a episodes 1 through 3 recap and gave some of our flaming hot takes about the season to that point. We decided to just finish up the season and talk about it. So, season 2. I mean, I saw you going back and forth a little bit with a friend of the pod, Stephen DeCorda, who had a flaming hot take that season 2 is not as good as season 1. What are your thoughts, Dave? Do you agree?
Surprise. Yeah, I mean, it's not as good as season 1. Period. That's does not mean it's bad.
No.
But it's not as good. I think that's pretty evident.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we talked about how the expectations for season 1 versus the expectations for season 2 basically set this season up to never really live up to season 1. But I mean, there were some things that I thought were interesting choices, some things that left me with a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth. But just to give a quick recap of the season, full spoilers for the next like 15 seconds. Basically, Will is still struggling with being connected to the Upside Down. The season revolves around 11 trying to figure out who she is, and how the rest of the crew is fighting off these monsters that are starting to take over the world through Will, basically.
Right.
Sum it up. So, what did you like about the season? What did you not like? Let's start with what you did like.
All right. So I mean, overall, I like being in Hawkins, circa 1984. Like it's just it's a fun world to go back in. Obviously, 80s nostalgia is pretty popular right now, but Stranger Things obviously really captured that last year, and I think that still does here, even though 11 leaves briefly away from Hawkins. I think that fun homey vibe is very much there, even as a bunch of evil stuff is going on. So that's fun, just being right there. And even though we don't get as much of it, the interactions, the chemistry between all the dudes, the whole crew, the whole cast rather, is still really fun. It's really charming. It's really what attracts people to the show in the first place. And I like that. And I think while part of this is an issue that 11 was away from everyone for so long, her scenes with Hopper, Millie Bobby Brown, David Harbour, the two best actors on the show, and they just chew scenery the whole time. And while maybe we build up 11's backstory, answer all those questions a little too long, I think overall it works well. So I mean, all my problems with the season are just kind of decisions the Duffer Brothers made in terms of what they set out to accomplish, with the plot, but separating characters, things like that. But I mean, overall, I like a lot of the performances, and obviously I like going back to that world. So it's still a fun, 9 episodes.
Yeah, I agree with most of what you said. I think the moments that landed the best for me were when it was Millie Bobby Brown and David Harbour, just exploring that father-daughter, not really father-daughter dynamic.
Yeah.
Especially like the scene in the car where at the end where they're driving and Hopper's talking about how he failed her and how he's scared of losing her, like he lost his daughter, and talking about Sarah. Also, a really cool little piece of the season that if you didn't really pay attention, you might have not have noticed. In the first season, when they do a flashback to Hopper with his daughter Sarah in the hospital, she's wearing a purple like hair tie. And throughout the season, at different points, you can see Hopper like playing with like a purple hair tie. And at the end of the season, when you see Mike and 11 dancing at the dance, her hair is tied back with a purple hair tie. So a pretty like cool little piece of the season and with some significant meaning behind it.
Easter egg.
Yeah, exactly. What did you think of episode 7? I believe it was. That was basically a bottle episode for 11 exploring her past.
Right. Yeah. The Lost Sister. That's when she goes off on her own to Chi-Town. Yeah. I like the idea in theory because I think Alan Sepinwall said this a lot. A lot of Netflix shows, the episodes don't feel different. They just kind of run. They end technically. They start right back up. There's no like episode vibe the way like a Game of Thrones. You think of Battle of the Bastards and it has its own unique identity, right? A lot of Netflix shows there really is no standout episode like that. Just a bunch of scenes, and I think episode 7 could have stood out if it worked better, but unfortunately, what did we get? We got a bunch of 80s punk archetypes. We got 11 saying bitchin'. Like that was
Right.
that worked well, I guess. But I mean, overall, it cuts the plot or stops the plot, to a crawl because we had a cliffhanger the episode beforehand with the Demodogs and whatnot. So it failed in execution, and also I think a big part of that is because it didn't result in anything. It's like it didn't matter. 11 like just left, and I guess maybe she understood her powers a little better, but like it felt very inconsequential. And also because what's her name? What was her name? Callie. She didn't come back at the end or something. It wasn't Chekhov's 8. So it really didn't feel like it mattered for this season anyway.
I saw some people theorizing that there may be like a spin-off show possibly coming following like that crew, just by the way that it was set up with such like unique and like trying to be interesting that weren't really that interesting.
It was like a pilot.
Yeah. What would you think about that?
I don't think so. I think the Duffers clearly need all their attention on Stranger Things because they probably had to rush the writing a little bit for getting season 2 out so fast.
Right.
So while Netflix probably would love to milk the world, the IP, if you will, I don't think so. I think maybe we'll see 8 and the other numbered kids showing up for the last 2 seasons because I believe they've already announced it's going to be a 4-season show. I could see that happening, and maybe this episode will, have more resonance with the audience down the line. But in terms of how season 2 worked, just felt very superfluous.
Yeah, I agree. I hope they also don't do a spin-off show, especially not until they at least finish Stranger Things. I wouldn't mind at that point if they decided to take some thread and follow it. But
sure,
to kind of bring it back to this season, I think one of my biggest issues of the season was with Dustin. I mean, go ahead.
No. So you had told me originally that Dustin was getting some negativity, opening weekend, if you will, when everyone started watching and making their way through. And then as I was watching, I was like, all right, I could see why. It just seemed like he was just kind of like a doof the whole time. Like he was either just there for comic relief or doing something dumb.
Right.
And it wasn't as charming as it was in season 1 because I think he was just a little smarter because he wasn't separated all the time like he was in this season. So I can understand it. But yeah, what is your gripe?
My gripe is, I mean, you hang out with your friends every single day. One of your friends is literally having flashback episodes about this upside down world that is like about to tear apart your town. You find an alien creature and you immediately think, oh no, I need to take care of this thing.
But Dart, no.
Fuck Dart. Dart would like play them all like a fucking fiddle. Also, shout out my man Joe Keery, by the way. Played, dude, he was
goat.
Freaking awesome. Steve
Harrington.
First season was like but this season he really stepped it up in a big way.
I think as they realized as they were writing that or making the show that Joe Keery is just like a really good actor. And he's in the commercial already, so like I think we'll see him for a long time. But they wanted to give him more to do, and thank God, because they had everyone separated, and putting him and Dustin together I think was awesome. But the same kind of issue I have with Nancy and Jonathan I have with Steve, because where does season 2 leaves us? Like, what do we have for those characters besides the will they or won't they?
Right.
Like the love triangle still isn't resolved. Nancy doesn't have any agency, that's for damn sure. and then Steve is just kind of there. Like, are you really gonna have him in the crew with all the boys? Like, I don't think so. So I loved the performance this year and the arc, it wasn't really much of an arc. I don't think there was much growth.
No, definitely there wasn't much growth as characters. I think next season, I'm guessing, will be at least a year in the future, if not more. Probably like a year and a half, I'm guessing. So we'll probably put Nancy and Jonathan right near the end of their high school days. Steve will have been an adult for
a year.
A year, adult, as much as you can be an adult at 18.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be interesting to see if they move more towards like that transition, like maybe because they're all going to be going different directions. There's no love triangle, but it's more exploring like how they're taking those next steps and preparing for that, and how the issue with the upside down, which I'm guessing will come back up almost undoubtedly.
Of course,
we'll tie them back. I saw a funny tweet. So a David Harbour tweet ended up in my timeline yesterday, and someone was asking him exactly how the upside down works, and his response was, I was told that there'd be no math. But who the hell is like looking at the upside down and like, oh, I really need to figure out like how this works, and there's a portal but you don't turn upside down, like what?
That's the Westworld Reddit obsessive fandom, man.
Yes.
It's like they only care about the plot and what is, whereas I think anyone who's watching Stranger Things with a critical eye is kind of annoyed with the upside down, because we don't really understand the rules in terms of how it works with 11, so
right.
And then the fact that at the very end scene, after they do the middle school dance stuff, and then it flips to the upside down, and the what do you call it, what was the monster called, the smoke monster looking dude, is hovering over the school again, like it's still not resolved. And I mean, I guess, okay, it's a very nebulous threat still. And unfortunately, this season, Noah Schnapp was really good as Will Byers. And in the episode The Spy, I was like, this is great. Like, he make him the bad guy. He's possessed, and they don't fully commit to the bit. They could have made it a little darker. So, yeah, I mean, questioning what the upside down is, and like, no, you got to question if the upside down is going to actually work for the show moving forward, let alone how it works. Like, that's not important.
Yeah, and to kind of just go back to like Will being possessed, how about your girl Nancy just sticking him with a hot poker? And like she basically put a hole in that kid's leg, and like it never gets addressed.
Yeah. Again, Nancy, we criticized when we talked about the first 3 episodes, which you can catch at soundcloud.com/nostalgiapod, but we kind of criticized Nancy for the manufactured Barb grief, which naturally totally goes away from like episode 4 on. But again, like, what is there to Nancy's character? Like, her
she's badass on the down low.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying like I don't like her or like the performance, but I just don't understand what's going to happen for the character moving forward. I liked Max as a new addition to the crew, but because 11 was separate the whole time, it just seemed kind of like I don't want to call it lazy, but like, oh, we'll just add another girl to the crew and it'll work fine, and we've already done this before. So, while I like the performance and I like where it ended up with Lucas, I think that's kind of overall the season kind of being a little bit of a puzzle. Billy though, her brother, while I find him like charming when he's gonna smash Mrs. Byers.
Buono?
Yeah, what about Buono though? But Billy clearly had something else to do in earlier drafts, and it was just scrapped. Yep. Like, he has no purpose or meaning. He's just
there,
shouldn't be there. But yeah, I hope he smashes.
Oh, dude, he's gonna smash, no doubt. It's actually really funny because when you think about Nancy, like, I feel like 2 of my favorite moments, like unintentional comedy moments, but like when they're like, who here can handle a gun? And she's just like, I can. Every kid in the room is like, no way. And she's just like, I can handle a weapon. It's like, what? Like, I was like, okay. Nancy? Okay. and then later on, when Will is like, possessed Will is basically like dying, and his family is like doesn't know what to do. She just like
Yeah.
hot poker from the fire right into your groin, dude. Like what the fuck? Like she just decided to become a badass out of nowhere.
I actually loved when the journalist dude asked Jonathan how his pull-out game was. That was wonderful.
Oh god. Yeah, the show still had some really wonderful moments. And I even thought like the ending when 11 like reaches her like full power, or I guess like is starting to understand her full power, was a really cool moment. So there were a lot of things I enjoyed. I just think that they need to spend a lot of time trying to resolve the issues moving forward.
Yeah, I think a part of it's probably the pressure of cranking out the show so fast, getting it in while the kids are still young and cute. But yeah, I mean, I think the Mind Flyer episode, that's the episode where they're trapped and Bob dies. I thought that episode was fantastic. And
Dude,
Sean
so
Astin,
awesome.
of course, was great. So
poor
still
Bob,
a lot
dude.
to like. Yeah, I know. I mean, typical Sean Astin character,
Yeah, for real.
And there's actually some funny stuff going on. Like, what other 80s actors can we cast? And I think Shea Serrano picked the douchebag in The Karate Kid.
Oh yes,
the blonde
that'd
kid.
be awesome.
Obviously, he's an adult now, so like that would be cool for sure.
That'd be great.
Anyway, I think what we should hope for moving forward is that Stranger Things season 3 does not come out in 2018. Maybe a spring 2019, just a little more time.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. And honestly, I wouldn't even hate if they did like a surprise drop. Like they didn't even really say. I mean, I don't think they would do that, but this would be a show where if a week before, like it was like it's coming or something like that, and then like boom, it's just like on Netflix. I think like culture would stop just to like digest that.
It would, but then you think that Netflix paid for a Super Bowl commercial for season 2, and you realize that they can just create the buzz, like print it on paper. So, but of course that would be cool. But yeah, I mean, overall we're positive, but it's smart to understand how the show can get better.
So to wrap up today's pod, we're going to talk about Taylor Swift. First, I wanted to get your reactions though to Eminem and Beyonce trying to ruin Taylor Swift Day. Yeah, that song is trash. Beyonce sounds good in it, but Eminem is just, dude, what happened?
Yeah, I mean, Eminem makes an apology song about all the pressure he's under now as an older MC, and then he ends it with "Bitch, I made Stan." It's like, again, just could not give a fuck. And honestly, it is cruel that Taylor Swift and Eminem are coming out a week apart because his album comes out this Friday. My God, that's a lot to ask of people.
Yeah, definitely. But Taylor Swift, Reputation, this is her 6th album.
Correct. Yep. First since 2014. It's been a minute.
Yeah, 1989 came out in 2014. Kind of crazy. 1989 was kind of lauded as a slight return for Taylor, I think, using some of her more like lyrically based thing while also starting to move in a pop direction, sort of. It was a weird mix, but still like very respectable by her fans.
Yeah, because she went pop first with Red, but then I think 1989 is where she took the pop and rejoined it with the stellar songwriting you come to expect from a Taylor Swift like music.
Speak Now.
Right.
So then we hear the singles for Reputation, and we gave our takes, which both of us, and I think a lot of people were very meh and very disappointed about. So Reputation, first of all, didn't drop on any streaming services, so made me almost get a virus on my computer trying to find a way to listen to it. Because I'm not going to pay for that shit. Sorry, Taylor.
Don't worry, everyone else did. It sold 700,000 copies on the first day. One day, already the biggest week of the year. So
as of recording today, it was reported that it had sold over 925,000 copies, which is insane in the year 2017.
Without any streams. Yeah.
Crazy.
Big.
Was this album as bad as the singles led you to believe it would be?
So the singles, the 4 singles, but obviously the high-profile ones were "Look What You Made Me Do" and "Ready for It." Mm-hmm. Those are probably the worst songs on the album. "Look What Made You Do" is definitely the worst song, and it just
Endgame is pretty close though.
Yeah, but I agree. But who thought those singles made sense? Like
I think
you're way too calculated about the way you roll out your music. I mean, did you just try and catch the buzz with "Look What You Made Me Do"? I mean, I guess so. And "Ready for It" just a swing and a miss. So, but man, it's just I find it very questionable that those are the singles that they picked. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think Taylor was trying to. I mean, I think the scope of this album was to be like, I am more pop rap driven, like mixing in elements of EDM. Like some of the beat drops on this were very like, this is a pop EDM song, very clearly.
The production's very big.
Which we'll talk about. But I think when she was thinking about how she wanted her to be portrayed moving forward as an artist and thinking about the movie she's making, this is obviously like, oh, it made me reputation. I want to drop these singles and move this to being what I am now. I don't know. The saddest part about it, just to maybe start at the back and work, or start at the back of this conversation and work to the middle. I thought the songs on this album that were the best were the songs that focus on what her strengths are: good songwriting, catchy hooks, headlines that I think were meaningful and relatable. Whereas a lot of this, I was like, okay, this is not a horrible song, but like I'm never gonna have a beef with Kanye, or at least I don't expect to. If I ever get to that point, that'd be great. Like, let me do that.
Right, I agree. I think at its worst, which is a large chunk of the album, it just, again, very immature, very petulant. Like, if you didn't have a beef with Kanye and Kim a year and a half ago, what would be on this album?
Right.
Because as we know by your incredibly apolitical persona, is there anything to you? Nobody knows who Taylor Swift is. She's 27.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And I was actually like seeking out articles to try to just give me some background, see if there was anything on the album that I missed, or like any digs or anything. And pretty much like half the songs are written to her current boyfriend, or like that's the speculation, is that they're written about her current boyfriend, Joe Alwyn, who,
congratulations.
All, I didn't even know that they were dating. But second, it's like, all right, I understand that this person is important in your life. But the thing that I think people liked about your songs was that you were able to take experiences in your life and pain that you had and like put it into a really catchy way and like send messages that people related to and enjoyed. This just didn't really hit. So what songs on the album did you like? Why don't we start there? Because it sounds like neither one of us really loved this album.
No, I emphatically disliked the album. Let's be clear. I think "Don't Blame Me" is pretty decent. Okay. When you listen to this, and there's song, like you said, there's a lot of good hooks on this. I don't think you can deny that. And yeah, some of this great songwriting does shine through. But does any of this feel like a Taylor Swift song? They just feel like generic pop songs.
I had three that remind me of a Taylor Swift song.
Yeah, I pulled some friends that are big Taylor Swift fans, and they pointed me out to a few of them. But it's just like, it sounds and feels for the most part just as generic as the trends she's trying to chase.
Yeah, I agree. The three songs I thought that could have been on any Taylor Swift album were New Year's Day, Getaway Car, and so this is the part that makes me mad. Call it what you want to. The way that she performed on SNL this weekend could have been a Taylor Swift song on any album.
Interesting.
The way that she portrays it on this album,
the studio recording.
Yeah, the studio recording is not as much of that feel. I don't know, and I guess like the other songs I didn't necessarily hate. "Gorgeous" has grown on me a little bit, even though I think it's a stupid song lyrically. I don't hate the beat and the way that she delivers a lot of it. And "Dress," I thought, even though it was a very like
people like
try
that
hard move to be like a bad girl or whatever, I thought she hit most of the notes on it. But I mean that's 5 songs out of 15.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, you mentioned "Getaway Car," right?
Mm-hmm.
Jack Antonoff's all over this thing.
Yep.
Which is interesting because he was also involved with "Look What You Made Me Do." But I'm not surprised that Antonoff's all over this because, again, she's it's very contemporary pop. She's never fully embraced that sound before. I mean, the synths, the big production,
right.
the bass, even, you know, it's all over the place. And then you top it off with a song where you have Future and a rapping Ed Sheeran. I mean, because of course that's what you thought was a good idea. Again, I'm not surprised. You don't actually know. You're just chasing the trends. So I don't know. It's just there's no hits on this album, which I think is fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
We mentioned the sales. Look What You Made Me Do did go #1, and that really speaks to the strength of Taylor's bass. She has enough fans, enough people paying attention. They will listen to a song and boost it up. But Look What You Made Me Do is one of the worst performing #1s on the chart ever. I mean, for context, it's already at number 34, which is lower than That's What I Like by Bruno Mars, a song that's like 43 weeks old.
Yeah, that album though, that Bruno Mars album,
yeah,
fucking great.
Right, and that came out I mean, that's the thing. I'm thinking about pop albums in terms of how I think about Taylor Swift. Obviously, I'm not a Taylor Swift fan, so I just kind of think about how it works in the culture, right? And I'm like, Melodrama by Lorde, obviously way better than this. But then I think like
so much better.
I think like other stuff. I'm like, I like the Dua Lipa album better. I like Demi Lovato has multiple songs on her latest album that are better than anything on this. I mean, it's Selena Gomez has had some good singles. Like even the Halsey record, which I basically savaged for 8 minutes a few months ago, that has Bad at Love and Now or Never, hits that are way bigger than anything on this album. It's just it's just so confounding that this is what she made.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't really know like what Taylor thought, because I mean, she's already one of the biggest pop stars in the world. You don't need to become more pop. You don't need to embrace a more generic sound. Like you already are the generic sound by the fact that everybody just loves you and people want to sound like you. So it doesn't make any sense to make this move. I also think, like you said before, we don't know who she is. I don't think she even knows who she is at this point. I think she's been so caught up in so much bullshit and dating all these people, like all these celebrities all the time. I think she needs to like take like another 3 years and really just like go experience life and like try to figure out, like have something to say next time.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. Like she basically went away after the Kim snake exposed her. You know, like all the snake emoji bombs started happening on IG. Like she went away and she didn't do anything. But obviously there was no, you know, personal growth. And not to like, you know, rag on her as a person. Obviously that's not really important anyway. It's just, I mean, a gold star to anyone who thought that Katy Perry and Taylor Swift would have a beef, and then they would both follow that up with their version of Lady Gaga's Art Pop 5 months apart. It's just insane. That's what we got.
Yeah, man. It's, I don't know. What I mean, I think when we look back at the end of year lists, this is not going to be in anyone's top 10.
Well, you know, you say that, but the poptimism around this album is disgusting. I mean, just go to Metacritic. It's an aggregator, obviously,
74 on Metacritic.
But you go to Metacritic, you see all these huge publications giving it 75s, giving it 80s. You know, the only one site that really truly savaged it with like a 30-something was a site that we totally discount all the time, Consequence of Sound, which I was like, all right, you guys actually had some balls for once. Good for you.
Yeah, Pitchfork gave it a 6.5, and they didn't really have much positive to say about it. I was like, how can you give this a 6.5? But
it's like the way video games are graded, like a 6 is like pretty bad. That's disappointing. But like it's a 10-point scale, but nothing ever gets 1 through 5. It's just, even though they all have their own meaning. So yeah, I mean, a 6.5 is pretty poor, I'd say, for her. And yeah, this is definitely her worst received album thus far. And that's pretty obvious. And again, it's going to be the least resonant, just because I don't see how you can expect the 4 singles all flopped. You think some other album cut's going to do well. I mean, I don't see how anything has any staying power, especially with someone like Eminem following it up right now. But did you hear about her cease and desist letter that she sent to that blog leading up to this?
Neo-Nazi blog.
Yeah, I mean, this is just like with Disney and the LA Times, classic Streisand effect. You bring more attention to something that no one really knows about by making a big deal about it. But the fact that she couldn't just denounce the alt-right connection, obviously, that
Right.
you'd rather just have her lawyers do it behind the scenes, tells you all you need to know. Like,
Right.
not that Taylor Swift needs to be rah rah, on the campaign trail with Hillary Clinton like Katy Perry. No one, that's not what you need to
No.
do. But the fact that you make a conscious effort to be so apolitical because you don't want to alienate any of the millions of fans that pay you money, like it's just annoying. And then on top of that, you also didn't have it available on streaming, just like Adele and Beyonce. But it's just adding up. It's compounding with Taylor Swift, and I'm looking forward to seeing the album not resonate, just because I want to see this push Taylor Swift, like you said, take some time and actually grow.
It's that old saying, if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything, pretty much. And this album is like the perfect embodiment of that, because she's just trying to be so much when if she's just her, she'll be phenomenal. It's really disappointing. And for not only Sam Smith but Taylor Swift both have albums that bomb, and now I am not optimistic for this Eminem album either coming out. It's a really sad end to the year for the most part. There haven't been a lot of big names hitting it this year.
I mean, wait, you weren't down for that Willow Smith album that just dropped?
Yo, actually, I heard good things about that.
I have read some good things.
a person that I'm friends with at work was listening to it. I was like, who is this? She's like, this is Willow. And I was like, who the fuck is Willow? She's like, Willow Smith.
She's only 17.
Crazy. And it sounded actually a little bit like Lorde, which is interesting. Definitely a move from her old whip her hair back and forth type days.
I mean, Selena Gomez and Camila Cabello have projects soon, no dates. Mm-hmm. And then Miguel announced an album for December 1st, and I actually like the first single. So, I mean, but that's really the pop space. Yeah, I think Tuvlo's coming soon, but I mean, it's kind of a downer year, downer end of the year, downer fall.
Yeah, so, definitely.
Weird.
Interesting thing, though, is as music is ramping down, movies are ramping the fuck up right now.
Dang.
I'm going to have to get that movie pass to try to see all the movies that we're going to have to talk about. We have Justice League next week, Eminem. We'll do some news, maybe Mr. Robot talk.
Yeah. Lady Bird's out. We got to see that.
Yeah, man. I was actually I might go try to see it this week if I can find a place near me. So there's a lot going on. We have a lot to talk about. Also, with the holidays coming up, we'll have a lot of time to catch up on things, hopefully, as long as we're not both traveling like crazy.
I mentioned The Punisher coming out on Friday, but another show comes out Wednesday, the 15th. Do you know what it is? It's a show you've watched some of. I don't know if you've ever finished it. It's a BBC show starring Cillian Murphy. Nope.
Oh, Peaky Blinders.
Peaky Blinders is back.
Blinders. Yeah.
On BBC, another 6-episode series starting up. So it's always a show I was interested in. I've always wanted to make time for it, but the fact that it's only 18 episodes coming into this new season, it's pretty easy to catch up. So I'm going to do my best.
Yeah.
Did you ever finish it?
No, I got through, I think a season and a half. I'm currently working on finishing up The Deuce. And once I finish that up, I'm trying to decide if I want to do Vice Principals or not. I might save that for the holidays.
I did Vice Principals. I've finished it just like I finished The Deuce. Vice Principals pays off.
Okay.
I actually have a really, it sits really well with me when you think about the series as a whole.
Okay. So, well, maybe I'll make some space for that so we can talk about it sooner. But I'll make some time for Blinders by the end of the year. I'm sure I will.
What's your Curb take? Curb Your Enthusiasm. We're about halfway through, a little past it. What do you think?
I think it's not as good as past seasons. I think really what it is some of the scenarios have just been so ridiculous. Reason that a lot of Seinfeld and Curb worked is because you're put in situations where people are doing things that most normal people wouldn't do, but at the same time it's still real life situations.
Yeah, you could rationalize it.
Exactly. In this season, I mean, he is hiding for the first third or three or four episodes. He's hiding from
Fatwa.
Fatwa. So I mean, it's okay, at some point
it just seems right. You just see, it seems like Larry David is trying to make it as crazy as possible, so he can wrap it up at the end like he always does. But there have been some episodes that are just pretty weak, and I think part of it is that that type of humor isn't as resonant as it once was.
Right.
I think people were saying that about the Jerry Seinfeld Netflix stand-up special from September. So, I mean, and I'm not a huge Curb guy, so I don't have the best take on this anyway. But as someone who really wasn't into Curb, I'm watching it. And I'm like, I see it, I get it, and I can definitely see that this used to work, earlier. So
I've never really been into like awkward, like uncomfortable comedy. It's just
right.
necessarily.
Yeah, the cringe. I don't like the cringe.
But Curb is a different animal at times. But I don't know. Cringe is not my favorite. Anyways, we should probably wrap up there because I feel like we could go on talking about the shows that we're partially watching right now forever.
We're about
But
to start
we
the
will be back.
leftovers. It's happening this week.
Yes, dude. I'm so excited to do like a season 1, 2, and 3, like 2 years later review with you.
Yeah, I mean, we'll I'm hoping to have it ready for the end of your list. So
that'd be great.
I'll be able to actually expound. So that's the plan.
Anyways, give us a rating and review on iTunes. Subscribe right there, or somewhere below me. Also, share with a friend and help us grow. We want to be bringing you the best content, make the podcast as enjoyable as possible. So any feedback is very much appreciated. You can find Dave at Martin Swagger, me at Sheeny World Peace, and you can find the pod at Nowstalgia Pod, all on the Tweetosphere. Yeah, I mean, we already kind of said what we're going to talk about next week. But if anything else comes up that you want to hear or any news that you feel is notable, I mean, we didn't even talk about the whole Louis C.K. thing. It feels like there's somebody else every week at this point.
Yep, that's for sure.
So,
they're actually, we might talk about this in the upcoming weeks. I'll give you a tease. Louis C.K. getting his stuff scrubbed off services. Kevin Spacey recast in a movie that he already had shot. Mm-hmm. Interesting how the art or separating the art from the artist debate is clearly shifting.
Definitely.
So we'll talk about that at some point.
Little tease for you right there. We'll wrap up there. Have a good week. We love you. Peace out.